Good one. Okay, great. Welcome everyone. Uh, this is a kind of a start for the Pune Design Festival, and we'll start with the first education panel. First of all, a warm welcome to everyone and all the panelists over here. Uh, and I will just share the screen so that I will introduce and then hand over to the moderator. So let me just share my screen. Yes. Okay. So a warm welcome, and here we start the 16th PDF of 2022. And many thanks to all the sponsors, Srishti, UPS, JKLU, RV University, Straight, HP, MIT, Vishwakarma University, and XP Pen. So many thanks to all of them. So today we get uh, today we are kind of doing a little bit of experiment, and I hope that all the panelists who have joined would be definitely be a good support. And we have created an interesting event here where uh, the audience also gets to probably change the way the panel is going to happen, and we will see how it actually goes. So what we will do is we'll just directly get into the way introducing one. So actually, I'll just give you a background on what actually happened before we started this panel discussion. Last year in 2021, we had an interesting panel discussion as a part of PDF, and it actually started a new exercise where almost 170 professionals and academicians and students signed up to volunteer. The goal was to create a group which is facilitated by ADI and which will make a representation to the policy making body and propose definite actionable points towards policy for design institutes. Now, that's a very big task that we have taken out in hand. We will need a lot of people support into this, but we have kind of started doing some progress on it. Further, we also wanted to create a framework of shared values towards the pedagogy and quality of design education in India. And I think this entire exercise that we started last year actually went on, and we have now separated out and kind of working across multiple groups, which are one is looking at the design profession, one is looking at design, the pedagogy, and the third is looking at the policy issues. So all these exercises are simultaneously happening, and in between this next PDF came, and where we got a very good direction and kind of mentorship from Dr. Geeta Narayanan, under whose support, and a very capable support from Arvind Lodaya, who was not in India at that time, and I completely acknowledge his time that he gave to us. And we kind of created this interesting panel to take this discussion a step forward. So we are doing something which is probably a very big task, and we decided that okay, let's do something at a smaller scale and let's make it interesting. So let me introduce you to our moderator today, Dr. Geeta Narayanan. I think everybody in the design industry and design education know her. And Arvind Lodaya and myself, Yogesh Dandekar, we are coordinating and putting the things together. So after that, I will also go ahead and introduce the various panelists. Let me remind you that because of some technical things, and since we have a lot of panelists who are going to share their views on the session, we have split the whole session into two sessions. So you are all currently into the session one. After this session ends, I would request all the audience to step into the session two. I would remind everyone again at the end of the event so that you are continuing this discussion into the session two. So let me start introducing the panelists, and with due respect to everyone and a bit of a freedom that all of them have given me, I'm not reading out a lot of big bio. You can go to the website and there's a detailed description and their bios are given there. So we have Mr. Thomas Dahl, who is the Director and Dean, Stewart School of Design, India. We have Sonia Manchanda, who is a founding partner at Spread. We have Manisha Fadke, Director, NMIS School of Design. And we have Sananda Sudhir, who is President and CEO, Invent India Innovations Private Limited. In the session one, again, we have four more panelists. We have Professor Ravi Mokashi Punekar, Senior Professor at Department of Design, IIT Guwahati. We have Mr. Shiva Vishwanathan, co-founder and design head, Cantinate. I hope that I got it right. We have Professor Deeman Panchal, Chair Professor, Professor H. Kumar Vyas, Design Chair at MIT ID, Pune. And we have Neelam Shibber, co-founder and managing trustee, Industry Foundation. So these are the 8 panelists which will join us on the session 1. Going to the session 2, where we will start with few more topics. We have Manisha Mohan, Dean, School of Design, School of Life at University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. We have Ramneek Majithia, Vice President, Director, and Dean, Academic Development and Innovation. We have Mr. A. Balasubramaniam, Director, Institute of Design, J.K. Lakshmipat University, Jaipur. And we have Anuba Kakru, Senior Lead Experience Designer at Airtel. And the last 2 panelists in the session 2 are Mr. Raman Saxena, who is a professor at CD and HCRC, Triple IT Hyderabad, and Professor Amresh Chakravarti, Chairman Product Design and Manufacturing, IISc Bangalore. So what we've actually put together is a mix of academicians and professions. And the whole topic, I would request Dr. Geeta Narayanan to initiate this entire discussion and explain the format. The topic, I will just briefly say, what is going to be the Dream Design Institute? And when we think about the Dream Design Institute, a lot of thoughts come to our mind. There are dilemmas, which side to take, what to do. And probably this session might help us to get some ideas and deliberate on that. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I would hand over the session to Dr. Geeta.
Thank you, Yogesh. And thank you, everybody. And it's really great to be here with ADI Pune as part of the Pune Design Festival. And as Yogesh has said, we've been at it for the last year in various focus groups. And it's been a very interesting set of interactions. In today's first session and in the second session as well, we are going to involve the audience in our discussions. That's the first reversal of roles that we have. What we find is that everybody has got used to Zoom and to being online. And normally it means that you're doing more than one thing when you are online. And so what we have done is there will be a first. Uh, May I ask whoever that is to keep their mics off so that we can, yeah, thank you. All those who are listening also, if you could keep your mics off. So from the 170 people who joined at ADI for over a year, and from the group crowdsourcing of issues on design education, the education group, thanks to Arvind and Yogesh and many others, have created 7 possible big ideas for discussion today. There are 7 distinct ideas that all the group who crowdsourced across India felt were important for design educators to discuss. So we have 7 provocations for panelists, and we have slightly modified them for the audience. So for every session, and the panel we will first ask the audience to poll on 4 questions that they are given. We will not reveal the audience poll. I will then ask pairs of panelists to take, and they will be given a topic and just 2 minutes to discuss, not more. And then there will be time for them to rebut each other. And it's not a debate. So they can explore the idea, they can reject the idea, they can expand the idea, they can build upon the ideas of other people as well. It's just an open discussion. It's not a one person pitted against the other. It's a dyad in conversation with each other about a provocative proposition. At the end of that, there will be a few minutes for the audience to pose questions, and Yogesh will manage those questions and the panelists will answer. I will sum up and then we'll go to the next pair. So in this session, we have 4 pairs, and we will start with the first audience poll. At the end of the session, we will ask the audience to poll again. And then we will find out whether this session has resulted in any change of mindset or any change of position, or we're all in the same place. So that's the design of the first session, and it's a similar design for the second session. So may I ask Yogesh now to talk about the poll and put out the poll questions?
Thanks, Geeta. So let me start with the poll. So successively for each question, you will get 15 seconds to answer. We will ask those poll questions one by one, and after 15 seconds, the next question will be asked. So, Siddharth, can you just start the poll and get it onto the screen? Yeah. So the first question is mainly about the syllabus. Do you really feel that there should be an extremely standardized, regulated syllabus, or we believe in open and a free syllabus, or we are undecided? So you guys, everybody can start voting. We have about 15 seconds where people can vote. So if you click on any of them, and then you have to press the vote button. Okay, so let's go to the second question. Yes, Siddharth? Yeah. So the second question is mainly about the specializations that the legacy has so far described. So there's a product design, communication design, animation, and we have kind of have this kind of differentiation. Now, should we want to go ahead with these legacy verticals or specializations, or do you want to create new verticals because a lot of things are changing, or maybe we are undecided? So let's take the second question as a poll, and you can go ahead and vote for it. Please click on the option that you want and press, don't forget to press the vote button. Great. So let's go to the third question. So the third question is on design courses and modules. So when you join a design course, it is a specified course. You have to learn these four things and these five things. Now that's like we have kind of given an analogy of food over here. So do you want to have a pre-packaged thali, like everything is served in front of you, or you would like to have the students or the even faculty to kind of create a choice, a la carte. Let's kind of choose what you want to learn. Or maybe we are still undecided. We have kept that undecided option open. So please go ahead and vote. And please remember that these questions, we are not going to reveal the poll right now, the results of the poll. Great. Siddharth, can we go to the next poll? Yeah. The next poll is on learning experience. So we have a lot of people or designers who come from a background where they have learned from the studio. There was a lot of one-on-one interaction. You learn from your mentors. So that's like some people believe that let's be in the studio and do work with our hands. There is also a new growing thought process on mixed pedagogy. Some things I don't need to go to a studio. Maybe I can learn from anywhere. It could be remote. So we don't know what is the way in which this entire structure can evolve. So what is the kind of learning experience that the students get? So can we vote? Please go ahead. Great. Okay, so let's stop the poll, Siddharth. So what we have is we have these four topics, and the syllabus, the specializations, the legacy specializations, and we're going ahead with these other two topics which were on the formats of the education. So let's kind of go ahead and start the discussions with the panelists.
So the first provocation for the panelists is on the syllabus, whether it should be standardized, open, or free. And the panelists who are going to take this on are Thomas and Sonia. So may I ask Thomas and Sonia to begin? And Yogesh will be your timekeeper. You have 2 minutes each. Then you have 1 minute each to ask each other or develop. I call it a yes and or a no but, Those are the triggers. To build
Right.
on somebody, you can go a yes and. If you want to say reject it or build some another argument, you can say no but. You get a minute for that. And then there's a couple, 2 or 3 minutes for the audience to ask questions. And Yogesh will be handling this part of it. So over to you, to Thomas and Sonia.
Just one point of timekeeping. When you'll come close to the 2 minutes, I'll just say 30, which is your 30 seconds are left. If you go extra, I'll show this. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are two things kept at my end, and let's go ahead. Start.
Thomas, you go first.
So okay, thank you, Sonia. I was going to let you go first, but I will take this opportunity then. I believe that the syllabus should be free. It should not be standardized. But actually, my mind is the middle of this. There is a part that should be free and a part that should be standardized, because there are some common things that need to be known as a design process that is common to every school. We've got different schools in India that are super great. You've got NID, MIT, Shrishti, whatever. STAD, whatever. All of those great schools. UID, whatever. I'm not going to name them, all of them, because we are going to spend my 2 minutes. But all of them are great, but they've got different topics. Some are towards the arts and craftsmanship. The other are more about the industry. Other are more about the technical part of doing. Other are more about the thinking part. So there are different stream and different orientation of schools. And I believe that all of them should have their own tastes. It's like biryani. When you build biryani, there is rice, there is all the ingredients, but everybody will shift a little bit the recipe to make it their own. And I believe that this is what schools of design should do. And we should have a topic that is, this is the base of the biryani. You can't go do teaching design if this is not there. And after that, everything that you add, all the spices and all the small orientation that you have should be left to the school in order to give their own taste. It's like human bodies. Human bodies got the same skeleton, but the flesh above it is making different personalities. And I think this is exactly what design education should be. There should be a common content to be sure that design is always going to be well taught. At least this is the base that all the design schools need to teach. There is a lot of design schools that are flourishing everywhere in India, and some of them are super good, some of them are not. And because sometimes, the courses is done like that. So having some constraint of this is the minimum that you need to teach to be able to claim that you are teaching designers is something that I believe is a strong part. And after that, everything around should be left to the school to give their own taste and orientation. Because there's so many different ways of being a designer, a product designer.
Right.
Thanks.
You can be a product designer that is going to be the one that is going to do things. You can be the product designer that is going to think. You can be the product designer that is going to make. You can be the product designer that is going to be discussing with the clients. You can be being a product designer is so vast. And you can be a product designer for Apple, and you can be a product designer for NGO. And between all this, the skills are so different. And there is a school that is going to teach you, one is going to be there, one is going to be there, one is going to be there. And you need to leave this freedom. If you get this freedom, you will going to make robots. If there is only one syllabus, you're going to make robots, which is exactly the opposite of what design should be.
Thanks a lot, Thomas.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm
good.
supposed to disagree with you, because I don't. Okay, because I believe that institutions are for individuals and not for instruction. So I completely agree that they all need to have their own flavor, and for individuals and the impact that they can make in the world. So at the very basic level, a good education is one that has certain standards, and prepares the mind and the hand for industry really. At basic level, that's a good institute. Then you go to great, and design is about a way of being in the world. So the great institution should actually integrate the student with the world. And then we go a little bit further and look at the fact that, the place design is now in. I believe that institutions have to be radical laboratories. So once we set that standard, you go here, you go here, you go here. From here, you prepare the ground, and then it's just about providing that scaffolding. So the Dream Institute has to be an institute where the student can actually sort of dream big. At the IITs, they're incubating such big ideas. They have 240 startups, I don't know, some 11,500 crores of investment, where, the instructor, the institute, the individual, everybody is sort of geared towards making an impact in the world. We're in a time, and from an industry perspective, I can tell you, we're in a time when everything needs to be reimagined. And that's the big opportunity for design, to go out there and reimagine everything, to lead, come out with a new view and put it out there, come out with new startups and put it out there. So, yes, we need that standard, but from there, we need that freedom, we need that openness, to provide that scaffolding for this person to just fly, to do great things and create an impact in the world as change makers.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Sonia. So now you both get a minute to each to discuss this with each other.
Yeah. So, yeah, what sort of biryani do you like? And what sort of biryani should we be making to make an impact in the world?
Yeah, so we agree on the same fact. So the fact that there is a basics, I think the base of design, that are there. So how to make a layout correctly, how to be able to speak in public. This really big base. Was the modeling, how to understand a surface, what is the semiology of a surface, of volumes. These are the base that should be there in all institutions to be sure that the operative skills are there, to execute design work. After that, the thinking process, of course, there is a base, the base of analysis, tests, all this should be there as a spine as well. So there is a basic for the first 2 years, I believe, like the half of the bachelor. And after that, everything that is deep core thinking with values of institution can be different. For example, in Strat, we believe we are teaching a lot students for industry design, and we are trying to give them a lot of ecological, sustainable think. I know that other schools are doing something different, and this is the flavor that can be added towards this central part. I believe the central should be really the base of this and the foundations during the first 2 years. Doesn't mean that the first 2 years of a course should be the same all over all schools. What do you think?
But can you imagine? So it should not be the same, but as the student leaves, maybe they already have a startup, maybe they've already done a project where they've created impact. So I believe that, well, we happen to be at a road where there are a lot of biryani joints. It's like literally a biryani street, and I believe the time has come for no more of the basic biryani. We need a very imaginative biryani if we want design to get the respect it deserves in the world. So be it as thinkers, be it as people who are publishing amazing stuff, where we're all working together. The faculty works with the students to help them make that impact in the world. I think it's a time for imagination.
Yeah.
A lot of, they have to be radical laboratories. I think the institutions need to be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Sonia and Thomas. May I ask now all the panelists if they would like to discuss this further or ask the panelists questions.
And there are other panelists who are a part of the audience. They can also raise their hand and we will get them on stage to ask the question or put in a point.
Well, I do, if I may say so, can I jump in?
Yeah, yes.
So I think it's, I think the basic framework of the biryani is right. I mean, the fact that you need basic skills and sensibilities and a certain character attribute, I mean, that should be mandatory. Okay. But design, a little different than other professions, is very individual based. So there should be some way to lead that individuality to a profession. So from an academic base to a professional base, and that journey actually is transversed through an educational institute, and that's an interesting framework to develop. I mean, which are the nodes you need, which are the things that you need to be able to get there, and I think
Right.
that's the challenge that education institutes will face going forward, is how to make this place. I mean, there's not one fixed ingredient and that's not one fixed recipe.
Yeah, if I can respond to that, I think I completely agree with you, where it's about empowering the student and helping them find their own deep purpose. And that should really be, and with design, they really can be change makers. So if you can help them find that purpose, and if that can be where they become big dreamers, and that's the Dream Institute, then perhaps.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
See, to me, it is too many biryanis nowadays. If you guys can hear me,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel that the world has expanded to a world where you have the whole world's menu on your platter. So
Absolutely.
I just think that you need more time. I just think that the courses need to allow more time so that people can evolve. So whatever is necessary is there as a part of the curriculum, and whatever is by choice doesn't take away what is necessary as a part of the curriculum. So maybe it's a 5 years course, maybe it's a postdoctoral study.
We don't hear you, Yogesh.
We can't hear you, Yogesh.
Yeah. So I'll just ask the tech person to get Arvind on stage. He's already on stage. So Arvind, you can speak.
I just made my comment earlier. I think design education has grown a lot. The design practice has grown a lot, and all of us are still talking the language of the pioneers. And I think we have gone past that stage. Industry needs a very large workforce of fairly standard trained professionals to meet its requirements. And yes, it needs the kind of bright minds and the rule breakers and all that, but in lesser quantity. If all of us can't be these hothouse labs of churning out geniuses and stuff like that, I think there has to be, we have to speak on behalf of the entire design education sector, not just our one institution or whatever it is. And I think as a sector, it is also something that we have to address the expectation from industry. What I have often found from industry is a recurring grievance that they have to retrain designers who come out of these very cool institutions with lots of attitude to get them to work, become productive in their workspace. And I think they want that onus not to be on them, but on us.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we have two more hands raised, which is Professor Amarish Chakravarti and Anubha. I think for want of time, we will definitely take their things. If they can type the questions, I will take them in. But I think we should move to the second point and the second topic now.
Okay. So are you giving them time, Yogesh, or do I go forward?
No, I think we should take. I think we should go to the second point right now,
Okay.
because
All
we
right.
kind of took a bit more time right now. Yeah.
All right. So the second topic is one that consumes us as much as the previous one, which is do we go in for the legacy verticals or new ones? Do we want people as product designers, communication designers, transportation designers, engineering designers, or do we want something that is creative capabilities, or do we want something else, managerial capabilities maybe for design? So may I ask Manisha and Sanandan to take over? Whoever wants to go first.
You need to unmute, Manisha.
Manisha, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it okay, Sanathan, that I
Yeah,
set the
please go ahead.
context? Yeah.
Yep.
So, first of all, good afternoon, and I really look forward to getting warm with exciting and relevant points that are discussed. And I must thank PDF and Yogesh and everybody who's designed this particular format, right? So, my co-panelists and I will be articulating our thoughts on a generalist or a specialist design. Of course, in that realm comes new verticals and what have we. So let me set the context with just the definition that I have considered when I talk about the generalist design, and my co-panelist will, outlay his definition as well. So a generalist designer is a T-shaped individual who looks at whose toolkit has the competencies to drive collaborative creativity instead of individual creativity with the application of business, technology opportunities, and behavioral sciences. The designer has more profound expertise in a particular domain. I would like to quote here humanizing technology, and has a broad based skills across design streams. They can work in cross disciplinary teams and have broader conceptual models and a wide range of transferable skills and are definitely agile. Ubiquitous technology has driven design into an experience driven ecosystem or systems rather than singular products. It leads to the design of a stream agnostic solution for a business case, all encompassing to create a certain product experience. A generalist designer here is expected to scope an opportunity, craft the holistic solution across cross disciplinary streams with interdisciplinary team members as a collaborative creativity exercise. The innovations in technology today have become technology first industry, right? So they require such kind of a solution designer to with this profile to maintain the solidarity of human centered innovation. Now, to relate this back to design education, firstly, the graduate attributes of such a program should consider the requirements of a generalist, as I said earlier, and the outcome should build character attributes such as agility, collaborative creativity, in addition to the curiosity and perseverance and creative thought that we have generally as a designer. If you look at an Indian context, yeah, a 17-year-old enlists in an undergraduate program. A generalist program allows self-discovery to align to an individual interest, skill sets to chart a career profile or goal. Ideally, a design program should consider cognition, age, and the skill set at that particular time. And maybe we can learn from other streams or verticals where we are saying there is a BSc and there is a further detailed MSc and a PhD. I conclude by saying that generalists and specialists are both required in the current design profession. As an educator, the responsibility is to create a generalist profile with interdisciplinary competencies and stream agnostic skills, as I said earlier, but within a certain domain, not all encompassing. But also have a specialist program that milestones the rigor required to be a product designer or a graphic designer and so on and so forth. Further, I conclude that I also want to state here that specialist programs should be brought in at the master's level, in addition to the current career changing kind of programs that we have. So with this, I just rest my case and I invite Sanathan also to join in. Thank you.
Sanathan, you're mute.
You're mute.
Okay, brilliant. In principle, I agree that a designer needs to be generalist. He needs to know everything that's happening in a startup so that he has an overview and he can take the right decisions or support the team to take the right decisions. But for me personally, design is wow factor. It's never seen before. It is first time in the world. It's like people say, "Oh, why didn't I think about this?" Or "Wow, what a form!" Right? I run a company which is hardcore product design. We design, develop, manufacture product ideas. And I personally feel that 10 years back, when I used to hire designers from NID or any other institute, they used to have the skill where maybe in the first 3 to 6 months, the guy could make a mock-up, the guy could help make a prototype, he could make some fun-do forms, and the products would look good. Today, when I hire a designer, it takes me a year and sometimes 1.5 to 2 years to bring him up to speed, working with the other designers so that he can really develop a skill as a specialist skill, a hardcore product design skill to be able to deliver. So what I see is that the world is expanding, startup scene is coming in. The old model of a Godrej giving you a project where you're only working on industrial design is moving away. Of course, it's there, but then many other avenues are opening up where your role is expanding. So I think it's a debate between depth and breadth. It's a debate between divergent thinking and convergent thinking. So though divergent thinking is brilliant, if you don't have it, you really can't figure out what needs to be done. But my question is, who will do it? If everybody is a divergent thinker, if everybody is thinking about everything on the planet, let's have a universal design course that trains journalists, and let's have product design that really makes a product. The guy needs to be able to make a product. And I think that that is a skill that cannot be let go of. Whatever be the course, wherever be the course. If it means a 4-year course becomes 6 years course because I need to have more courses, brilliant. But if that means that 4 more courses are going to come in and my TCP course from 12 weeks is going to become 8 weeks and then is going to become 6 weeks because 1 more course has come in and my core skilled courses are going to reduce in time span, I'm producing designers who need to be trained for a year or 2 before they can deliver anything.
Great. Quite on time.
So now you both can actually interact with each other, Manisha and Sanandan.
Now that's a very exciting time, right, Sanathan? We've had that conversation before. So, well, I agree with what you're saying. I'm not rebutting with what you're saying. I'm saying that there should be specific specialist product with programs with the rigor that it deserves and the skill set that it deserves. Whether it's 4 years or 2 years, at what age should it be is a matter of debate and deliberation, and the education system for that matter. But I think both of them are required, and we should give both these as separate entities, right? You can be like if I can give you, you can go the Roger Federer way or you can go the Tiger Woods way. Both succeeded in life. So they just took different paths there. Or we can also look at a way of pick and choose and realize that I'm not a person who wants to go into the depth of it, who wants to stick to one and work a different program. So I think both of them are relevant and we should give an opportunity to pursue both programs. Of course, redesign is required. I'm not doubting that.
Sure. So my perspective, if I have to summarize, is that if I am a product designer, okay, and if I am in courts, a product designer passed out from an institute as a product designer, I need to be able to do something that nobody else can do. Okay? So if I look at the role of understanding of information technology, business management, general management, the whole 9 yards around the startup space, an IIM guy can do it, an engineer can do it. It's even ergonomics. It's just a matter of learning, or reading, going through some videos and so on. What is it that I, as a product designer, can do that nobody else can do? That is hardcore developing a form and a form that is in time, in trend, and that makes people say, "Wow, boss, macha diya hai," right? So if I can't do that, I should not be calling myself product designer. That's how I feel. I should be calling myself as a generalist designer or a universal designer or something where a person who's going to hire me should not get the idea that this is a product design guy having a portfolio with just some CAD models who has never actually made anything. That's where I stand.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've had a very interesting discussion. May I now request the panelists? I'm sure that you have positions on this that you would like to pose to either of the two speakers, so please do.
I think Anuba has raised a hand. Anuba, is this for the specific topic that you have raised the hand? No, I think, okay. Raman, can you get Raman on stage?
I don't know how to raise my hand, actually.
Can I say?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So I think if you look at in the current time when the differentiation between the hardcore product and the digital product is getting diminished every day, and the way the technology is moving, I think this difference will actually come much closer. Okay. And if you look at the trends, if you look at the employment trends, most of the people are getting their employment in the digital industry. Whether you are a fashion designer or you are a textile designer, if you actually do a survey, you'll find all these guys are going to the UX or interaction design space. So how do you see in this context? Because nobody is joining an institute to do some kind of a charity or some kind of a, NGO work. So people are looking at design education more as a profession, and they are looking for some employment opportunities. So when you go with this hardcore differentiation, and when you realize not many jobs are there, and you end up going into employment into an industry which you have not learned about, maybe, so how do you see this scenario and fit that scenario with this context of, differentiation or division between the different field of design, and rather than as a generic kind of learning process?
So,
And
Raman,
any
from my
answer?
perspective, yeah, yeah, sure. Raman, for me, that is also a specialization. A good UI UX designer, if he's a fashion designer and he's
Mhm.
a temporarily changed UI UX designer, also does not know too much about that. In that space, also, he has to first spend 2 years or 1 year to learn and exactly understand the basics of design for that requirement, right? I'm just saying you need to be a specialist. Okay, if that's the bigger thing, let's have 100 courses, and of them let's have 85 courses that are all focused on UI UX. I'm fine with that. But whatever it is, the guy needs to know. He needs
Yeah.
to know how to create a wow in whatever he's doing. It
Mhm.
cannot be that I am training everybody in all fields of design and eventually everybody going doing UI UX
Mhm. Okay.
just because you're getting a job there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
got it.
I believe, if I may jump in here, that I think there's, your questions sometimes, it's either you're for or against, but I think here it's a little bit in the gray area. I agree with the fact that, there are a lot of product designers that are thinkers, but they don't know how to make a nice shape. They don't know how to articulate, some emotions through shape. And this is a big issue. And there are interaction designers that don't know how to, the coding is working and things like that. So I agree that there's a lot of courses that are too generalist and that are not offering some specialists. I think that this is where, the NEP might help us a little bit into, is that it's going to make some differentiation when you have, and we were speaking about it, having a very big core structure of what is a product designer, let's say, on having some minors here and there about, heavy hardcore modeling, or heavy, or design thinking on research, on analysis, on strategy. So here students will have, even if they have a core that is going to be strong, they might have some other sensitivity that are going to help them to find different jobs, because not everyone is looking at a designer that is just a shape maker. Okay, some others are looking at strategy designers and that. So I think that the pillars that we have, the big pillars, should be there, but they might have some extra small branches on the side in order to help them. We can't just be like having one pillar or not. I think what we need is pillars with some branches in order to uh, help direct different students that, as we mentioned before, that are not hardcore design product designers, but might have some more into the making, more into the digital, more into everything. So
Thank
it's
you,
a mixed
Thomas.
answer, I think.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Thomas.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Anybody else? Yogesh?
No, I think
Anybody?
nobody else.
I
So I
Yeah.
can I add
can I?
something to this?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
Now,
Few
just
minutes.
to add, I mean, there's been reasonable confusion, so let me add confusion in this. So I think, while studying at NID, I was told that the designer's specialization is that they are generalist. I think the fact that we specialize on being generalist, that we know wide spectrum of things, though even if I'm a product designer, I would have sufficient knowledge of what is happening in communication design and the other way around, and each specialization which are in communication design and each specialization that you have in industrial design. So I think typically, if the programs are worked out in such a way that you have a fair amount of electives where you can choose from, where we can, decide what is it that I like doing and so on and so forth, I think you'll still remain a product designer and you have a fair amount of knowledge of maybe communication design as well, even for that matter, textile design as well. So I think this is a very interesting debate. That to me, the central idea is that you need to be good at your whatever problem solving process or design problem solving methodology and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in for 1 minute, Yogesh? So a generalist definition has changed today, right? So one is getting to know different parts of our own stream, and one is to know interdisciplinary. So within business, technology, sciences, and what have we. I think we also need to differentiate between what is the definition of a designer, where the fact really remains that you still need hardcore specialists, and that should remain, that should be, the sanctity of that should be kept alive in a professional, and a little bit of awareness about what is, like Raman said, where is the job, what is happening. Product designers are still required, visual communicators are still required. A little bit of awareness about design and its profession would really help understand a better fit to a program. Yeah, thank you.
If I may just, because this is very important.
I think that we will, we're running out of time. Thomas,
Yeah,
I'm
we should
sorry
go
to
ahead.
cut you off.
Yeah.
There's a very important thing. I think here I've heard something that is the definition of a designer. I think this is a big mistake. There is not one definition of a designer. Designers are so different. As I mentioned before, there's designers that are going to work for corporates that have got some certain skills. And some designers that are working for design agencies will have different other skills. And we can't have the same definition of what is required for all.
I think Thomas, you're on overtime. So may I cut you off there? So we're going to the next panel now. Thank you very much. This was really interesting, and lots of exciting points of view emerged from that. Now the next one, may I invite Ravi Mokashi and Shiva Vishwanathan to discuss this notion of a la carte versus the thali. Do you want to put people to put things together? And in that context, what is the role of technology? Is it really, that's the context of technology, whether it's going to allow you to be a la carte or whether it's going to give you a menu and a thali? And do we see it as a threat or do we see it as an asset? I mean, it really depends on where you're coming from, I guess. So over to you, Ravi and Shiva, and let's talk about it.
Ravi, all yours. Ravi, you first. Ravi, I think you're on mute, or we can't hear you. Go ahead.
We can't hear you, sir.
No, I think it will be better if he switches off his video. There is a bandwidth issue with him.
That's right.
But I think he is on. Yeah, he's got his number. Yeah.
Ravi, if you can switch off your video, that will help. Because we can't hear you. Yeah, please proceed.
No.
Any luck? Can any other hear him?
No, we can't hear him.
No, neither do I.
Well, Shiva, you want to give it a go while Ravi figures out his sound?
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think I'm going to kind of talk industry, looking at design kind of a method.
Great.
Rather than
Go ahead.
the other way around. Not that I'm from the industry, but then I think I can kind of do a good guesswork. I think it's not a silo anymore. Design, I think, integrates too much with a whole bunch of business functions, which is like product managers, technologies, marketing professionals, and more, right? And it's important to kind of integrate well. That's point number one. There's also a demand for every designer to move from being a practitioner as like what you're good at to a manager, to a mentor, to a strategist, and probably to a senior management of sort, or an entrepreneur by itself. This has got to be kept in mind too. So I kind of believe that education for the industry today, or the industry sees, it's not from a one-time university thing. It's not like, one of those stuff where you get a set of vaccines and that you're set free for your entire career. It is not like a monolith that you walk through. It is more like an operating system that demands updates and versions as you go. This basically means that we need digestible nuggets of design concepts and tactics that can be consumed by design learners to grow and to integrate well. It doesn't really matter whether you're a professional or whether you're a learner, a student learner. That's a good way to kind of learn and go, because you're talking to people like all of us who are continuous partial attention. I mean, look at this. I mean, continuous partial attention is an interesting term that I keep repeating. How many of us are actually looking at our phone, reading mails, working, and listening to this too? I mean, plenty of us are. I don't know enough to say about industrial design, but I can say this about graphic design. Let's not forget that in the last 35 years, graphic design has completely changed. While the concepts are intact, the tools, processes, interfaces with business, end products and channels are not the same at all. There's probably very little that is tactile. It is so ironic that we are romanticizing the smell of ink on paper on Instagram. So that's what is happening today. In teaching graphic design, this is where we should think of an incremental system, how elements can combine to become components. Components can make patterns. Patterns can make assets. Assets can make systems, and system of brand and totality, right? In industrial design, I guess the tactility is probably way more intact, and material knowledge hopefully trumps remote learning completely. So design upskilling for design professionals and for allied business functions should be incremental multi-course meal that never ends. But at some point, you have moved from being a novice to an expert, and that can be hopefully recognized. It is a learn as you go model. So we need to know this. Technology will help design education and upskilling as your roles and responsibilities change. But this is not the same platform as like the K-12 and the online math tuition edtechs that are getting funded. Surely not. This should be a hybrid, cohort-based learning platform, like how we learned design when we were in school, like Maven or AirTribe in India, which is our partners, by the way, for one-time live focusing on acquisition and inquiry. This should be supported by other cloud-based tools that help collaboration, discussion, practice, and production, keeping this entire continuous partial attention going forever. Importantly, the design diaspora, that who we are, should stop navel gazing and look around and adapt to change very, very quickly. We should tell ourselves that we are not special till we learn to work with others. That is my point of view.
Thank you, Shiva. Over to you, Ravi.
Can you hear me now?
Of course, we can hear you very well.
Oh my God. I was in a sweat. Didn't want to miss this session. Sorry, Shiva, I missed your points, but let me just sort of fill in with what my thoughts are. Firstly, I think role of edutech in the is a natural progression of human thinking and understanding in the 21st century. I think we need to accept that it is so empowering and potentially empowering is the word. And if we accept that, I would hold back a little on the aspect of binaries, and I would prefer to think in terms of duality of this empowering nature of edutech. We already have experienced that centers of knowledge in the 21st century are increasingly now decentralized, the more democratic, and perhaps they offer the full potentials of being free of the shackles of the brick and mortar, contained kind of environments of learning. It's very possible to really imagine new ways in which education modeling should be done in the first place. The whole that is the part that we have not been able to touch till now. What we have done till now is content generation for online learning, some amount of tinkering of assessment, things like that. But what we have not done is imagining an learning environment and borderless institution, which is decentralized in terms of being enabling people to learn in as many different ways as possible. They could get inputs from all kinds and all sources. So a network of networks is what is perhaps the empowering way forward or this borderless this thing. The society today is ready for this inclusiveness, so it makes it possible, and it should be led by designers because we have the imagination to be able to imagine the new campuses which are borderless. You know, uh, keep it more flexible. All the discussions till I heard till now were bounded in the context of a campus, quote unquote. What if it is borderless? Then this 4 year, 5 year doesn't matter. Give an offering to the student where he is able to navigate at his own pace, learn what he wants to learn. And as institutional administrators, how do we really help him to the best of his own self-worth and self-potential to tap? And our role is to provide such a platform. And if you're able to do that, make as diverse a nature of designers as possible, then we've done a good job. So institutions can
Thank you,
be
Ravi.
imagined in a new dimension. Yeah, thanks. Sorry for
Thank
this
you.
break
Thank
from
you
my
for that. And I think that, can I just ask both of you to converse with each other? Now, I know that Ravi, in a way, you missed a lot of what Shiva said, but maybe Shiva, you want to build on Ravi's point of view or
Yeah,
not?
I think it's quite similar to what I was talking about, Ravi. I think the entire thing of like, how can you make it boundless, not really bound by time or space, really, the walls, as you call it. How can it be continuous rather than being defined by a specific part? How can you think about actually integrating very well into the business, other business functions, while you specialize in what you're good at? How can you also become as a designer, how can you move from being just a practitioner, which is what you probably are done with when you actually come out of a proverbial campus, and to actually become like a manager, a mentor, collaborator, a strategist, and probably even a senior management, right? And I think the learning is not doesn't stop in any possible way. And I think edtech, in that sense, unfortunately, edtech, we look at edtech as this silly things that are being advertised. I won't take brand names here; it's not a good idea. It's like silly things that are being advertised and being overly funded by, for reasons unknown. But then I'm talking about edtech that we can develop, technology to educate and environments within the digital realm that we can develop, and which is pretty much what Ravi said. Like, as designers, what can we develop as spaces where we can exchange and create, fabulous method of collaborating.
Shiva, one thing that I would like to add to this argument, if I may, Geeta.
Yes, please go ahead.
Most important foundation on which it has to be built are three: values, ethics, and the third is and so these institutions have to be bounded by this as a founding principle on which they will be established. When this data is the new gold, and there's a whole new colony of new capitalists, if it gets dictated by a handful of groups who are empowered with technology and the divide will being technology deprived to technology powered, that divide is something which is worrisome. And unless education institutions of this kind of founded on these key principles, they would be running up the wrong track.
Right.
I think that Ravi, you made a really, really important point.
Absolutely.
And I think that you got a high five from this side on that. But I can't give you any more time, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi.
So I think that perhaps since we've gone over time, do you want to just go on to the next panel, Yogesh?
Yeah, I think
that would be a good idea because we're on a limited time.
No, we have one topic left which we could finish in this. Yeah, we should finish that topic.
Yeah. So thank you. I mean, each of these conversations, as you can see, the design of the thing is very exciting and it's just the beginning. And we hope that over the next few months, we will be able to take it with Yogesh's help and the spearheading from ADI Pune, we will make something more come out of it. And so please, if I'm cutting you off, it's not the end of the conversation. It is just a starter on this point. So now the last panel for session one is Dimant and Neelam, and they are going to talk again, perhaps a slight extension of what Shiva and Ravi were talking about the quality of pedagogy when you scale it, quality of versus scale, whether you want to do it in person or you want to have some sort of mixed pedagogy. That's the proposition before you. And please go ahead, Neelam and Dimant.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gita. Thank you, Yogesh. Thank you, ADI. So what I'm going to do is just create some little backdrop to what I'm going to talk about, which is vis-a-vis pedagogy. So basically, there are three pillars that I believe are responsible for shaping the way we learn today: personal and individual. And this is to develop individual skills, talents, sensibilities, and of course, overall belief. The cultural dimension, the idea of the whole worldview in its deepest context. And the third pillar that I see is economic, and that is to equip us with skills and talents such as, in such a way that we become financially independent and productive. So education plays a very pivotal role in shaping and developing knowledge, know-how, required skills, professional attitude, which are kind of required for an economic growth. But what we seem to miss in all this is how do we figure out the content based on current concerns, and that is, delivering things online, offline, or even for that matter, the hybrid. Now, with respect to what is appropriate for going online or offline or hybrid, depends on the content that we need to deliver. Basics and fundamentals of any design inputs in today's context is, rightly pointed out earlier by Shiva, and that is this whole very idea of EdTech can be looked at to deliver things online, which are fundamentals and basic courses. So we don't really waste too much of time when students are actually offline, sharing their concepts. Any content which could be codified and has a flavor of theory can easily be dealt with online. And this we have tried the last couple of years at MIT ID, and it's been pretty successful. I mean, to some extent. Now, this will reduce on dependency in person, and the faculty and his better utilized time for value-added inputs. Project components of design learning, there are certain phases of design process can be dealt in an online mode, such as research, analysis, design direction, data prioritization, and so on. So what I feel is the major role of faculty in future for hybrid learning will also be to kind of prepare all design-related content, which was otherwise delivered offline, uh, by exploring other methods of communication. And I don't mean literally the kind of stuff that you see in EdTech today, maybe even going beyond that. Uh, and this will actually ensure critical components of learning is not compromised.
Thank
And
you.
all in all, my take on this is that learners who are comfortable with either of the method of learning, online, offline, and all of that shouldn't be compromised. Shouldn't be compromised.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Neelam. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being.
No. Now, since Dimant and I have spoken about this in the morning, I can pitch in and complete Dimant
Yeah, go ahead.
activity in my 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am on this thing of yes and. So I'm not doing no but. Yes, yes, Dimant. And I think what you could not finish saying was that it's very important that we look at, after all the information and the skills and all the knowledge and experience, leadership building, whatever we pump into these students, we really need to be looking at their emotional well-being. I
That
think
was the
that was
point
the
that I missed.
foundational
Last
piece.
point was that.
It was his foundational piece, and I 100% agree with it. I have a 29-year-old and a 31-year-old, and they are literally almost behaving like when I used to behave at 23 and 24. We all may feel that kids are having an escalated growth, but kids are also at the most difficult period. And these are not kids, these are like, okay, not kids, they're young adults. Sorry, I have to be politically correct. But this material we are talking about they are, for young people, we are in the toughest time humanity has faced since the First World War. Look at the complete inundation of social media. They've got to handle like 150 instruments and platforms and the pressures. Everybody needs to become super rich by the time they're 30. I mean, it is just mind boggling, the pressures on this generation, right? So, despite all that industry may want, we may want, I completely believe, because we are supposed to speak about pedagogy. So, in the pedagogy piece, I think everybody needs to put the student front and center, and in his or hers emotional well-being. Dimant, I've done a great job to
Yeah.
augment, I hope, your point of view, because I firmly believe in it. And 30 seconds I have left, where I think we were also supposed to speak about scale. So I'm supposed to talk on the behalf of scale. And
Yeah,
I
yeah. So
believe,
just the last point. I'm
no,
sorry
no,
we are
Dimant,
going.
Dimant, you can't interrupt me. I've only got 30 seconds for my point. Okay, to me, because I have to now speak as a practitioner, and I am a practitioner, so many other practitioners have spoken. To me, scale is the holy grail. You guys are worried about all these urban kids or from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. I'm worried about the millions of our rural people. I work with artisans. They all need to understand design. What are we doing about them? Okay, so I've shared my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you can build now, Dimant, if you want to build on what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
You've got another
Yeah, so
minute,
the
and
last point
so
that
is
I was
Neelam.
saying,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, for that 30-second bit didn't cover that up. So I was saying that instead of just increasing the number of students and therefore having a burden on institutions in terms of infrastructure, I think it's a great idea to have more institutions coming in with more varieties of courses. And exactly what Shiva was saying, go to the other level where we are not just talking about traditional courses and going beyond that. Yeah, so that is one point. And for which you a huge efforts in actually making faculty members to teach these things. I think that's a last point that I wanted to make. And because I think none of us collectively have ever talked about how do we get people, thinking souls, to come back to education, come back to academics, and then continue that whole process of bringing up amazing minds which are emotionally stable, as Neelam was saying. Yeah, so this is, in fact, a backdrop to that whole activity which we have started at MIT IT of introducing our MDes course in training faculty up for two very, very structured inputs for master's program. So I think whether it's craft, which Neelam has been talking about, I don't think people are seeing that as a segment where I can contribute in a great way. I think that is something which needs to be brought into the pedagogy, that needs to be brought into every other aspects of design. I mean, we're not looking at even, say, for example, design for social and spatial needs, inclusive design, universal design, and so on and so
So,
forth.
may I ask Neelam now to add a little bit to this? You make her own points.
Yeah, I got to get, yeah. Yeah, yeah, so I am a great believer in scale. I also completely sympathize with the gentleman, Sadanand, who said he has to coach everyone for 1.5 to 2 years now. That is a bare minimum, but it's okay. I mean, we can also do a little bit of freelance teaching in our design offices. No, but having said that, I do believe specialization is critical. Pedagogy around specialization is needed. My key point was continuous learning. Yes, I got it. Continuous learning is the solution. I think, yeah, do a 4-year program, but then every 2 years, we should be able to offer. So, like if some of these designers want to become advocacy people, policy people, sit on boards, understand governance, understand all the higher up things, we need to have a lot of smaller packages, continuous education program. Like if someone joins Sadanand's office and finds that his whatever AutoCAD renderings are terrible, he has to say, okay, just go do that, man. do that course and come back. I mean, don't expect me to teach you now in office. So I think continuous learning is important. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
So I think that brings us to the end of the first panel. And
Yeah.
before we go on to the audience poll, I will just summarize some of the big ideas that have rating. As I said, the discussions have been phenomenal, and I will try and do my best to summarize it in the time that Yogesh will give me.
Great.
I think that starting from the first session with Sonia and Thomas, I think there was this question about what were foundational skills that people needed to learn, and then what was the individualization or the shaping of the curriculum. And I think Sonia came in with a very powerful point where she said it's not about developing robots and it's not about instruction, but it's about standards, and it's about being radical when you're thinking about standards and you rebuild education like labs in the real world. And I think Arvind also countered some of those points by saying that we've got legacy of pioneering thinking and it's time to move on. The second session, very interesting, Manisha Zananand, where there were I think, two very great points that were being made. Both are very important. Sanandan, you talked about usable knowledge. You wanted education to deliver to you usable knowledge that would make somebody immediately usable in your production facilities, right? Whereas on the other hand, Manisha was talking about habits of mind, the habit of being agile, the habit of being curious, and to be stream agnostic, to develop cross-disciplinary thinking, and not think only about singular products, but to think about experience stream. Experience today is being one of the key things. And I think this is the current tension between when people tell me at Shrishti, oh, your kids are useless because I gave them something to do and they couldn't do it. Well, as Neelam said, well, you can go tell them, learn that and come back. But what is it that they bring to the table is one of the things that I would also add as my own point to that discussion about generalism. So when it comes to Ravi and Shiva, I just love the phrase digestible nuggets. You know, I just think that when we're thinking about this whole thing of partial attention, I think we all suffer from partial attention. And that's why we got nobody to speak for more than 2 minutes, because I don't think anybody listens for more than that. But this notion of education being something of an incremental system, and for Ravi to add that today the role of EdTech is enabling and empowering, and we cannot go back, and we must think of borderless institutions. And Ravi, I was just thinking of AICT and the way they come with their checklist, and all of it is about space and the campus and the number of rooms and the number of things that you need to have before they can accredit you. And perhaps we need to continue this dialogue somewhere at that level. And I missed one. No. The last one, of course, with the three pillars of personal, cultural, and economic to make people financially independent. I could see that there was a very important trust in that panel. And that was that the personal, whether you're talking about emotional well being or you're actually creating individuals who have the capacity to live in this world, to survive in this world, and to be well in this world was, I think, one of the key points that both the panelists brought up. And of course, in terms of scale, we all now know that in India we have to scale. I mean, that was one of the greatest negative points thrown at me as a founder of Shrishti about 10, 12 years ago. People just said, oh, don't come and talk to me, Geeta, with your cute little 300, 400 thing. You know, get to four figures and then, you know, we can talk something. This country can't work with schools that are cute and small and boutique-like. And so I do think that, therefore, we are also going to have to think of continuous learning when we scale and make the empowerment of technology available to all those people that Needham felt so passionate about and who get committed from our stream. That's my summarization. Over to you, and let
Great.
the let
So
the
I think we should quickly run the poll once again see if the discussions have made anyone kind of change their mind. So Siddharth, can we just do the first question again?
But
We'll
we
have-
haven't seen the first ones also, so we won't be able to compare if you're just showing the new ones.
No, so that's the whole fun of it.
Okay.
Because we are going to keep the scores separately recorded. So let's vote for the one in the syllabus part.
So Yogesh, we have to vote again, is it?
Yeah, you have to vote again. Maybe you guys are panelists, so you may want to abstain from it, but the audience
okay,
definitely
yeah.
can vote
All right.
about it.
Okay,
Okay,
I
can
would
we go
like
to the
to.
next
I've already
question?
voted.
Next question. Yeah, it takes a bit of time. Yeah, the next one. The specializations. Okay, if people have voted, let's go to the next one. Yeah, here we come to whether we want to package everything together or let people select which courses, when they want to learn, how they want to learn. Let's vote. Great. Can we go to the next one? Great. So it's about the learning experience, the online and offline. How do you kind of look at the mixed pedagogy, the continuous learning that Neelam talked about? Okay, great. So I think we should close the voting and we will put out the scores. Can stop the, yeah. Geeta, do you want to put out the scores right now or at the end?
Well, I think let's do it now because it's
We'll do it
these
now.
panels, and
Yeah.
then we can look at the other
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah. The score is not seen. No, it's not seen on the screen.
Do you think it's going to take some time?
Yeah, I think there's some bit of a technical issue
So
over
I
here.
think that we'll go on and we can
We,
show
we
the
should.
poll
I
at
think.
the end.
I think we should go to the next session till we
Yeah.
sort out the scores. So I would really thank all the panelists here, though it was a short session for each one of you individually, but we learned a lot together. So let us step out of this session, and I would also request all the audience to join the session number 2. We kind of overshot this session by some time, but I hope we'll make up time in the next session.
Yeah.
So let's
Thank
go
you.
to the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Don.